Andy Wood, Director and Founder of VTC Tax. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Okay, now you mentioned VAT there. Let's just talk about VAT, for instance. I do keep bringing you back to this sort of mythical man that's either inherited some property or bought some property or whatever else. So let's again start at the beginning of his journey towards conclusion with the property. Let's talk about whether he should or should not register for VAT.
Yeah.
Now, if my understanding's right, on residential properties, it's inappropriate to register for VAT because it's neither chargeable nor reclaimable. Is that right?
So a residential property investor is unlikely to have any VAT implications at all. It's an exempt supply. The one exception, in really relevant exception anyway, in terms of residential property and VAT, is where you are a developer of residential property, and in that scenario you could essentially zero rates for VAT purposes.
Okay. Now, just because perhaps again you're holding the property for a while, you've got perhaps managing agents' fees while they look after the property, you've maybe got incidental fees that you're being charged for having assessments done or valuations done, that kind of thing, on your journey perhaps towards development, either residential or otherwise. And it may be, of course, that you develop something and then choose to keep it as an investment for the rental. If you've registered for VAT during that process, you've obviously had the advantage of being able to reclaim that VAT you charged. Would that then leave you liable to charge VAT on rent, for instance? Yeah.
So the two key scenarios, I think, in this sort of area, which are going to be relevant. So the first example, which I mentioned before, is if you're developing a residential property, is zero rated. So if you've got professional fees and VAT being charged for the supplies that you're consuming, you can recover that input VAT, but because it's zero rated, then you're not charging VAT on your supply to the third party. So if you're developing it, somebody comes along and buys a flat from you, you don't have to charge VAT on it. The one you perhaps have to be careful about is where you have a commercial property investment. Commercial property investment is the default position. It is exempt for VAT purposes, but you can do something called opting to tax or electing to tax, which might sound like a very altruistic thing to do. Most people don't opt to have anything taxed if they can help it. But the reason why you might do on a commercial property is for the reason you point out. You may have those professional fees and other input VAT you want to recover. So in that scenario, if you opt to tax, you can recover it. But you have to be very careful, as you pointed out, that if you are then letting the property to tenants, you have to charge VAT on that rent. Often, if the tenant if they are VAT registered, then they're going to be able to recover that VAT. So it's really just a timing issue. The problem is where you have a tenant which either is not VAT registered or is exempt from VAT. So let's say you're letting it to an IFA, they're exempt and won't be able to recover the VAT. So your tenant could, in some circumstances, essentially have a cost that they can't recover.